All right, let's dive into the world of insane luxury. Today, we're uncorking the stories behind the most expensive champagnes on the entire planet. This is going to be fun.
But first, I have a question for you. How much is a perfect memory worth? Think about it. Because when we get into these bottles, you'll see you're paying for a whole lot more than just fancy grape juice.
You know, champagne has always been that drink, right? It's the ultimate symbol for a big win, a new year, a major celebration. But some bottles, well, they take that idea to a completely different level.
So let's kick off our countdown with bottles that, well, yeah, they're expensive. Their price is tied to things we can actually wrap our heads around. Beautiful materials, amazing craftsmanship, and of course, a little bit of history.
Okay, so starting us off at number 10, we've got a Moet and Chandon, whose price comes from its white gold-plated sheath. It's basically drinkable art. Then, right behind it at number 9, the Boerling Croft gets its price by using only the juice from the very first, most delicate press of the grapes, super high quality. Number 8 is a Krug, famous for using rare Pinot Noir grapes from this tiny walled-off vineyard in France. And then check out number 7, a bottle of Moet that jumps in value simply because it was the official champagne for Prince Charles and Lady Diana's wedding. History in a bottle.
All right, now we're stepping it up. We're moving beyond elegant packaging and into a whole new territory of expense. We're talking about sheer size, extreme rarity, and even more precious materials. Kicking off this next group at number 6, we have a Cristal from 1990 in a huge 6-liter bottle. They call it a Methuselah, that sold for over 17 grand. Then, at number 5, a Krug from 1928 jumps to $21,000, not because it was bottled then, but because it uses these incredibly rare grapes harvested way back in 1928. And then look at this leap. At number 4, a Dom Perignon Jeroboam, which is a 3-liter bottle, hits $40,000, mostly because the bottle itself is coated in white gold.
And just so you know, when I said Methuselah, that's a specific term for a 6-liter bottle. It holds the same amount as 8 regular bottles. And yeah, it's named after the biblical guy who supposedly lived for like almost 1,000 years. Pretty fitting.
Okay, deep breaths, everyone. We are now officially entering the top 3. And down here, it's not really about the liquid or the bottle anymore. Here, the story is the most valuable ingredient of all.
Coming in at number 3 is something totally different. This is from Pernod Ricard, Perrier Jouet, and it's less about buying a bottle and more about, well, creating your own.
Get this, for $50,000, you don't just get one bottle, you get a whole set of 12. But the really wild part is that the price includes a trip for you to fly out and personally choose the specific liquor that goes into your custom batch. Talk about personalized luxury.
Okay, look at this chart for a second. We just talked about $50,000, which is, a lot of money. But look at the insane jump from our number 3 spot to our number 2. That's not a step up, that's a leap into a completely different universe of value. So what could possibly justify a price jump like that? A story that sounds like it's straight out of a movie. Our number 2 bottle is the 1907 Shipwrecked Heidsieck.
So picture this. This champagne was on its way to the Russian imperial family back in 1916, but the ship carrying it was torpedoed and it sank to the bottom of the ocean. The bottles just sat there, lost for 80 years, until divers stumbled upon the wreck in 1997. They brought up over 200 bottles, perfectly preserved by the cold, dark water. And that incredible story, that journey through war, revolution, and time itself, is what makes a single bottle worth a jaw-dropping $275,000. You are literally drinking history.
So let's recap. We've had precious metals, royal weddings, and a literal century-old shipwreck. What on earth could possibly top that? What could be worth millions of dollars?
And here it is, the number 1 most expensive champagne in the world, Goutte de Diamants. It translates to Taste of Diamonds.
So let's break this down. The champagne itself, it's amazing. Made from 100% Grand Cru grapes, which is the highest possible rating for a vineyard. The bottle has this cool pewter label that kind of looks like the Superman logo. But that's not the secret. The real reason for the price isn't in the bottle, it's on the bottle. Right in the center is a single, flawless 19-karat white diamond.
And that little addition brings the price for one single bottle to an absolutely mind-melting $2,070,000.
Which, brings us back to that first big question. After seeing all of this, what's the actual recipe? What makes something this unbelievably valuable? Well, it seems to boil down to these 4 things. You need exquisite craftsmanship, like using only the best grapes. You need precious materials, gold, diamonds, you name it. You need extreme rarity, like a vintage that's nearly a century old, but more than anything, you need a fantastic story. Whether it's a royal wedding or a bottle rescued from the bottom of the sea.
And as a final thought on champagne and pure extravagance, get this. Marilyn Monroe once supposedly took a bath in 350 bottles of champagne. We can only hope it wasn't any of the bottles from our list today because that would have been, by far, the most expensive bath in human history.
Which really leaves us with one last thing to think about. When you buy a bottle like this, are you buying a drink or are you buying a piece of its story? And what, really, makes a story worth drinking?